Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Unashamed. My name is Daniel Clayton, if you didn't know that already. And I'm here with my good friend, co-host, and brother, Chris Knight. Chris, how you doing?
Woo, doing great this evening, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. It was relatively easy to stay up this late this time. I was pretty surprised, but it's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, it's a little tough for you out there.
Yes, but
It's
you know.
nice 9 o'clock here.
Oh yeah. Rub it in, rub it in. So. Happy day 10 or day 9 if you go by days, day 10 if you go by nights of the Omer.
Woo, 10.
We've been, every night that we get together to read the scriptures, we've been shouting the numbers inspired by you. So thank you for that. It's been kind of fun to add in there.
Awesome, good. Yeah, one of the funnest commandments to fill, in my opinion, is definitely the Omer count, because it gives you an excuse to run around and shout numbers at people for a day. I know that sounds strange and silly, but I just love to shout in numbers. And hey, it could be an opportunity for people start asking questions, and you get to share a little bit about your faith.
Exactly. I mean, what is more surprising than someone you may not know shouting to them is a completely random number out of nowhere? So, yeah, I'd say that would be a pretty good start. So we're still in this time of the Omer. Chris, what word would you have for people to continue to keep in their mind as we go from this season of Passover to Shavuot?
Well, what's so beautiful about the Omer is it's a time of change. It's a time of testing. It's a time of preparation. When God took the children of Israel out of Egypt, it was a big change for them. I mean, these people had been immersed in this lifestyle, in this culture of Egypt, of idolatry, of being oppressed, of being in slavery. So when they came out, they had a lot to learn. They had a lot to change. It's not just some overnight change. They didn't walk through the Red Sea and all of a sudden, everything's good. Just like it's not like that in our lives. When we come to the knowledge of God, we definitely go through a process of changes, of renewals. And you can see that, as they were leading up to the Mount Sinai experience and the covenant made there, they went through some testing in the desert. And so this time, as we've just come out of, thanking God for removing that leaven in our lives, in my opinion, it's also a time to still prepare and still, go through this time of testing, of examining ourselves, saying, Father, what can I change? What maybe needs to still be taken away from my life as we prepare for Shavuot? What about you, man? What are some of your thoughts about this beautiful time of transition?
I think it's just a really good time to, just as all the feasts are, keep our focus in the right place. Counting, it's like counting the days on, we don't always count the days on a calendar, because things get redundant. But in this time we have, 50 days to count, and we can just be increasing our anticipation and expectation of something from Shavuot. Looking through history of what's happened, some pretty big things have happened on Shavuot. So, I don't think it would be a bad thing to anticipate something. I don't know exactly what, but I think in every area of our life, no matter what feast we may or may not be in, I think it's always good to have some anticipation, some expectation of the Father moving.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you look scripturally, both before Mount Sinai, Moses told them to prepare their hearts to become clean, to prepare for the experience that God Himself was going to come down upon the mountain, and He did. And how awesome was that? But also in the book of Acts, after Yeshua had ascended, He tells His disciples to go and wait, and they were also in great anticipation and waiting and preparing in prayer. And so on both different accounts we have, they're, like you said, it's anticipation, and so we should be excited, we should be ready, we should be in prayer and expecting, knowing that our Father is going to show up on His appointed time.
Man, can you imagine what that was like for the disciples? I mean, you think of a friend that tells you they have a surprise for you. How much you think about it, you think about what it's going to be and everything. But the
Yeah.
Messiah Himself telling you to wait in anticipation for something. Whew, man.
I know.
I
Looking back, we have all the answers, or at least we think we do. But back then it wasn't. They didn't know what they were getting into. At least maybe in some aspects.
Yeah, for sure. So, with all that, keep that in mind, everyone, for this wonderful time of the Omer. But for now, we're going to get back to our discussions on the sermon of the Sermon on the Mount. I don't know what I'm saying. We're going to talk about Matthew 7. How's that?
Sermon on the Mount. Woo! Do you spell it with a D or a T? I don't know, but we're talking about it. So, yes, we are just entering chapter 7, which, remember, as we begin to go through this is a sermon. That's why they call it Sermon on the Mount. And although we have it chopped up in nice little chapters and verses, they didn't. And so, one thing we're trying to do is also look at how they all connect together and the common message that Yeshua is really expressing in these passages.
Yes, and, some people might be saying, like, Chris, man, you got to stop saying that. But no, I think it's always good to have the reminders. I'm glad you say it every time because, even I need to be reminded that, this is one continuous thing. It all relates. So, and, Yeshua did the same thing. He repeated over and over again, which we see in this very first verse of don't judge so that you won't be judged. For the way you judge others is how you will be judged, and the measure with which you measure out will be used to measure you. So, what do you think about that, Chris, in the light of these past verses and chapters?
Well, one thing that this is once again, as we hit so many, a semi controversial topic because the don't judge card is probably the most misused, thrown out there Christian get out of jail free things. Just don't judge. Jesus said don't judge, and it's kind of a excuse to hey, no one hold me accountable, no one give me any standards to live by, no one keep me where I should be. I'm just gonna do my own thing solo, and if I sin, get over it. I don't want you helping out. Which, in my opinion, is definitely not the attitude to have because we all sin. I mean, last time we checked, Daniel, have you sinned lately?
Probably more than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, me too. I've had some mistakes. I'm sure everyone listening has, and if you haven't, well, then you're an amazing person, and you need to host a seminar on not sinning. Either that or you're a liar. So, which is a sin, of course. So, we're all messing up. We're all making mistakes. We're all falling short. No matter how hard we try. But our heart should be to grow, to be like Him, to get one step closer. Each and every day, I want to be that much more like Yeshua. And so our desire should be to want people to hold us accountable. The book of Proverbs says that a wise person, accepts rebuke and correction. The Torah tells us to judge righteously and with a righteous judgment, and Yeshua says that himself in another passage. And so when we come to this passage about don't judge, we really do have to look at it in context. And as we've been seeing in these previous passages with Sermon on the Mount, he's dealing a lot with religious hypocrisy of his day. He's dealing with people who teach one thing and then say another, who condemn, here on the right side, but here on the left side, they're committing sins even worse than what they're condemning and portraying on the right side. He's dealing with a false sense of righteousness among the religious authority. And when we, I don't want to jump too much ahead, but when we look at the rest of the passage, he's dealing with, the core issue is we have to look at ourselves first, and we have to understand, like he said there in verse 2, that with whatever judgment we use, we will also be judged by that judgment. So if we are going to hold people to a strict, if you break any commandment or standard, then I'm going to condemn you, well, then we have to point the finger back at us and say, well, what standards and commandments have we broken, and are we holding ourselves to that same level of condemnation that we are embracing upon others? So that's kind of my first look and opinion on this, jumping into this verse.
It's pretty good look. I mean, yeah, you covered quite a bit there.
Yeah, sorry.
So, no, don't be sorry. Because I completely agree. The don't judge thing is used way too often. And, I went into this a couple weeks ago when you were out, and I brought up the thing of ARK, A-R-K, the probably made most famous by Evan Almighty, the acts of random kindness. He says, change the world, one act of random kindness at a time, A-R-K. And, I went into that a little bit. There is absolutely a place for that. But I think there's also another arc of A-R-C, the acts of resolute conviction. And conviction is usually not played out by, it's not one act of random condonement or resolute condonement, it's conviction. And, if you are kind to a person 100% of the time, no matter what they do, they're never going to question themselves. If everyone around me is kind to me 100% of the time, I'm never going to question myself. And I don't want that. I want to be corrected. I want people to hopefully I do it in a way that they can gently correct me. But I want to be held accountable. I want people to, people got to take this with a grain of salt, because people can use this as an opportunity to point stuff out. But I want to be corrected and make sure that I'm following the straight and narrow, as we're going to get to later. But one way I kind of see this verse is taking out the word judged in a way, and saying, don't hold a person's past against them. Don't judge a person for their past, for their forgiven past. If they continue to do what they did in their past, then it's their present, and that's kind of a different subject. But if you hold someone's past against them, then your past is going to be held against you, and I'm pretty sure none of us want that. So there's really no reason to bring up something that has already happened and been forgiven.
Exactly, and if I may, real quick here,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying perfectly. Goes along with and lines up with Yeshua's parable of the unforgiving servant. And just to kind of say it in a nutshell, I would encourage people to look it up on their own. But there's this wealthy master. He has a servant, owes him a ton of money. And, he pleads, he's weeping, he's, repenting, oh, please forgive me. And the master has grace and compassion, forgives the servant. And now there was another gentleman who owed this servant, who was just forgiven, much smaller sum of money. And this person as well was pleading, asking for, forgiveness and compassion, but the servant did not have compassion and had him, locked away for the debt he owed. And when the master, who had forgiven this man, heard of what happened, he was so angry about what had happened. And it doesn't work out very well for him. But Yeshua compares this to us and him. The Father, in the prophets, he says he has removed our sin and cast it into the ocean, into the depths of the ocean, that he doesn't even remember it. And so if that's the great forgiveness he has for us, of course we got to show that to one another, to our brothers and sisters.
Oh, for sure. So don't, just don't bring up the pain of someone's past. It's not gonna help their present. And if you're done there, Chris, we can move into these next ones of the splinters and the planks. And let me tell you, I was at work today. I was building a crate for one of the machines we made, and I got some splinters in my hands. So that's not extremely relevant, but just throwing it out there. So verse 3.
Some live experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, I did get some sawdust in my eye, so maybe you can help me with that.
And real quick, before we do, if it's okay, I just want to point out, because I looked it up real quick, and it's John 7:24 is where Yeshua says, "Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment." And that was after his healing on the Sabbath, and people were being upset with him. And so he does tell us to judge, but to judge rightly. And I think this is dealing with a separate issue.
Yes, very good. All right, well, in verse 3, go ahead and go to verse 5. Why do you see the splinter in your brother's eye, but not notice the log in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the splinter out of your eye, when you have the log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly, so that you can remove the splinter from your brother's eye. Yeshua was really good at being very straightforward and sticking it to the man, we have the normal interpretations of these verses, of what we just went into, of observing yourself before you try to correct someone else. And I'd like to take a little bit of a different approach to this and say, Chris, how ridiculous of me would it be if I went to your house and pointed out in your 3 cubic feet piece of garden how many weeds you have in there. I'm not saying you have a 3 cubic feet garden, just figuratively, but pointing out the very few weeds you have, when I have 5 acres at my house to mow that is like 5 foot tall grass just overgrown everywhere. How ridiculous would that be?
It's very ridiculous, and this is such an easy, I guess not easy, but a simple concept to understand. You wouldn't go to a single, divorced, bitter person for marriage advice, you wouldn't go for home advice to someone who, doesn't own a home. You wouldn't, it's just common sense, right? You want someone who has the experience, who's not just talking about it, but lives it, right?
Yeah.
We want someone who lives it. And we actually saw this in last week's Torah portion, where during the consecration initiation of the priesthood, the priests, the sons of Aaron, had to cleanse themselves and offer offerings for themselves before they could do this for the people. So, yeah, we got to pray up and deal with issues before we start pointing out flaws in others. But, notice the key word is before you do that. Then remove the speck from your brother's eye.
Yes.
So we're still commanded to hold each other accountable, but to do it with honesty and look at ourselves first, point the finger at us first and say, Father, help me with this issue, help me with this, sin, help me with this area of my life, before we should begin giving advice and helping our brothers and sisters out.
Yes, and I mean, it's still, a perfectly good thing for me to do, to come mow your yard. But until I take care of the jungle outside my house, I'm not saying it's not freshly mowed, but, read between the lines here. Until I mow the jungle behind my house, I really have no place coming to you and telling you how rough your lawn is looking. Because, like you're hinting at, until I take care of my own lawn, I don't have the experience to come and do yours. And on the other side of the coin, until I do my side, you're probably not going to respect me if I go do everyone else's stuff without taking care of my own self. It's not a proper way to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So, go mow your lawn, everyone. That's what we were that's the big thing we were getting at there. Oh man. Yes. So, the pigs and the pearls. Are you ready for that one? This is a fun one.
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
Oh, so don't give to dogs what is holy, and don't throw your pearls to the pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet, then turn and attack you. What's your take on this, Chris?
Well, I believe this is referring to people. It's referring to those who are outside of the assembly, outside of the faith, outside of the congregation, is my own take on this. And the pearls, I believe, though it may seem odd, are these rebukes and corrections and judgments. Because judgment is a beautiful thing for one who is wanting to grow. Like I said, the book of Proverbs says that a wise person accepts rebuke because it does nothing but help you. You're learning, you're taking a step up. But it's the foolish person who gets furious and hates rebuke and has authority issues and doesn't like being held accountable and has bitterness against leadership in congregations. And this is a big problem in our walk, in our movement. So many people who have been hurt by the church and now can't respect any sort of authority and just say, well, no, it's just me and God. I just report to God. And, I don't have to be in a body or accountable to anyone, which, is definitely Korah syndrome. It's an issue of, I'm going to ignore God's appointed authority and just go straight to him, which isn't how God operates. God operates in a very precise order with a chain of command, and he appoints people, And so, anyways, wow, that's crazy rabbit trail. But yeah, don't throw your pearls before, swine. Don't correct those and don't judge those who are outside of the faith, who aren't, who aren't going to accept it, who aren't a part of the body. And we see this passage elsewhere. I'm trying to find it, but I can't for now. But Paul talks about it, and he says, don't judge those who are outside of the assembly, who are outside, because God's going to deal with them. God deals with the world. Too many times in the faith we're pointing fingers at the world, but God's going to handle that. He says, no, judge those who are inside the body and hold each other accountable. And, because of other passages, we know that, little leaven spreads quickly and little contamination can grow really fast. So our responsibility is to judge one another and not to throw our pearls before swine, if you will.
Yes, and you think about it, and how much time has been absolutely wasted by any of us, trying to pound into submission, pound the truth into someone when they just, they weren't ready for it, or they weren't ready to accept it, or they plain weren't wanting to listen. How much time has been wasted? All that time we could have been spending on ourselves, making ourselves better, and putting ourselves in a place that is more respectable to that person. The more time we spend on ourselves, the more equipped we are to talk to others, to discuss with others these things, to answer their questions. If we try to go gung-ho right at the beginning, just with all these quote-unquote pearls, then that's not going to be going too well. And yeah, just so I just really think it's saying don't put so much time into someone who's not willing to listen. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a frustrating thing. I definitely went through that phase myself, and spent so much time just worrying and being concerned about the people around me and my Christian friends, that I just lost the ability for a while to focus on myself and to focus on my own faith. And that was a bad place to be. And at the end of the day, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much understanding you have, there's only one person you can change. And the more you change that person, the more you change yourself, the more able you're going to be to influence others. Not change them, but influence them to change themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like we're coming up here to a break. What's the number for people to call in here on the second half?
If you can still hear me, everyone, it's 503-967-3001. We will be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Chris Knight. Welcome back to Unashamed. I'm here with my good friend Daniel Clayton. We're back on the second half, and we're talking about Matthew chapter 7, the first portion, Judge Not, from Yeshua's probably most famous teaching, Sermon on the Mount. Daniel, what's up?
Oh, I'm really liking these verses of don't give to the dogs what's holy and casting your pearls before the pigs, because it reminds me of a very eye-opening experience I had one time with some pigs. I was somewhere away from home and volunteering my time somewhere, and they had a bunch of animals there, and some of the animals were pigs. So I had to, I avoided it as long as I could, taking care of the animals, because of course I got plenty of animals here. But finally, had to do it, and that's okay. And went over and took care of the animals, and got the horses and the goats and everything, and had to do the pigs. I see their water, and it's pretty dirty, so I go over, dump it out, I clean it out, fill it up, and go put it back over there. And man, these pigs, they were across on the other side of the pen, which was a pretty good distance, and they saw that I had just refreshed that water. They ran over and immediately dirtied that water up, disgusting, just black within seconds. So I'm like, you know what? I'll try it again. I'll see what happens. I dumped it out, I cleaned it out, I filled it up, I brought it back, and again, within seconds, they were all over it, they were all in it, and it was gross. Honestly, it was just gross. And it just kind of hit me, it's not just that they aren't clean. I'm not even speaking really in kosher terms right now. But it's not just that they aren't clean, it's that they hate clean. They can't stand it. Anything that is clean to them, they have to go and make it filthy and disgusting and dirty. And when it says here, they may trample them as in reference to the pearls. If you do, they may trample them under feet, then turn and attack you. That's a true statement. If you throw something clean, something beautiful before these pigs, and insert what you like to for pigs there, then they're going to trample them. They're going to destroy them. And they're going to turn on you. Once they destroy the clean, beautiful thing you put before them, they're going to turn to the one that threw them.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't had a pig experience, so it's nice to hear your experience there.
Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yeah. I found that passage I was talking about in the first half, and Paul writes about it in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Is it okay if I read the passage?
Please do.
Awesome. Well, starting in verse 9, he's to give some context, he's speaking about who we keep company with, and he says, I wrote to you in my letter not to keep company with sexually immoral people, yet I certainly did not mean with the sexually immoral people of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or idolaters, since then you would need to go out of the world. But now I have written to you not to keep company with anyone named a brother who is sexually immoral, or covetous, or an idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, not even to eat with such a person. For what have I to do with judging those also who are outside? Do you not judge those who are inside? But those who are outside, God judges. Therefore, and he quotes from Deuteronomy here, put away from yourselves the evil person. And so he says, when I'm telling you guys to avoid these things, I'm not talking about people in the world. I mean, that should be obvious. I'm talking about people in the body, people you call brother, who are dealing with these issues, not to keep company with them. And so obviously that would force us to assume that we're to hold one another accountable when it comes to these things. And so I believe this relates to what Yeshua is saying in that don't throw your pearls or words of Torah or words of correction or rebuke to those in the world, to those who aren't of the faith, because it's useless, it's pointless. They're not going to find any value in it anyways, just like the pig wouldn't find any value in the pearls. But rather correct and judge one another that you may sharpen each other and be the better for it.
Yes, agreed.
And in that same token, if I can point out, this is a lesson not just about how we should judge, but how we should receive judgment.
Yes.
If you're part of the body of Messiah, you need to be okay with and be prepared for people to tell you when you mess up.
Yeah, and I think it's been going on so long that we've probably forgotten how to take judgment in a good way, honestly. And it's important to note that everyone's going to take judgment differently. Like me personally, what I do is, maybe I mess up on something at work or, doing something around the house, just for that kind of example. And my dad comes over and he shows me how to do. He tells me, what I just kind of did wrong there. And my reaction to it is, I kind of play it off a little bit and, make it seem like, I knew that was happening. But then later is when I think about it. Later is when I really dwell on it and receive the correction. So that's how it happens to me. Just important to know everyone's gonna take it differently and do different things with the words that are given to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to get out of this it's just me and God mindset, because it's just not true. And I think it comes out of a good heart. I think people mean well when we drift into that path, but a lot of it just comes from baggage of bitterness in the church or from, different areas. But all throughout the Torah, all throughout the scriptures, this is a community deal. There is no, okay, it's just me and my personal relationship with God. No. You're part of a people. You're part of the body of Messiah. You can't just be the toe of Messiah by yourself. You know what I mean? It takes the whole body. And we have to learn how to deal with that, how to accept correction without getting easily offended, and how to correct others, and how to work out our problems instead of just splitting and starting new little denominations or sects, which happens even in this walk, and it's so saddening.
Yeah, I've always kind of liked the thought of just being the toe of Messiah by myself. I don't know what you're talking about. that was sarcasm, for everyone that.
Who needs the rest?
But yeah, no, it's a good word. We need to, get out of these ruts and understand that, none of us are perfect and we absolutely need each other. There's been you're talking about the order, the community, and the order of leadership and authority over people. And we also see this in this past Torah portion of, when the fire of Yahweh falls, when Aaron and his sons go through all that they have to go through and the fire falls. One thing you could say about that is when the order is right. I think I've heard my dad say this. That's probably, I get a lot of material from my dad and he always reminds me of it, in a loving way. When the order is right, the fire will fall. We cannot expect, that if we do things our own way, if we just do whatever we feel like doing, that his glory is going to fall, that his presence is going to be there. No, there is a way he has set up, and it works. I'm pretty confident in saying that. It works pretty well.
Oh, man, absolutely. His way or the highway, It's just, that's true.
That's right. And to keep on this pearl things, the one you brought out of the pearls being the words of Torah, the instructions, a wonderful part of it. This time around, I was kind of thinking of it in I don't want to say different, but another way, and that is pearls as gifts you've been given. I've been watching The Voice some, the TV show. Yes, I have a TV. I watch TV. Condemn me. Do what you want. But as I watch this show, I see these incredible gifts that these people have been given. Some of them have absolutely incredible, breathtaking voices, and I just realized we were created to praise, and we were created to use the gifts we've been given for Him, not for ourselves. And that's one thing I see in this throwing your pearls to the pigs. What are we doing with our gifts? Are we, are we one using them for ourselves to further ourselves, and are we casting them before the wrong people? Seeking to build ourselves up in front of them, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to lead you down the wrong path. That seeking to build yourself up in that, it's not gonna lead you in the right place. So just a thing to think about. Are you using your pearls? These beautiful things, these beautiful gifts that God has given you, to further yourself or to further His kingdom. It wasn't too long ago that Yeshua was saying, His kingdom. It's all about His kingdom. So, where are we putting our focus? Where are we using what He's given us?
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. And, like kind of we opened up the show with, so fitting for this time of preparation, of anticipation, of receiving His Word and His Spirit. Look at the life of Yeshua. He did nothing to build Himself up. Nothing. He gave everything, and all of it was just build up the Father. And, that's definitely behind this passage. When we're talking about judgment of others and holding each other accountable and looking at ourselves first and all these things, we should always approach this with a humble heart that says, am I looking out for myself, or am I looking out for the kingdom? Our ultimate goal is, whenever we confront brothers and sisters or have issues or have offense or divisions, should be to do what's best for the kingdom, to put the other person before ourselves, and to ultimately display His love and His character in that situation. Definitely.
Yes. All right, we ready to move on?
Yeah, I believe so.
Alrighty. In verse 7, I'm going to read through probably 11. Keep asking, and it will be given to you. Keep seeking, and you will find. Keep knocking, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who keeps asking receives, and he who keeps seeking finds, and to him who keeps knocking the door will be opened. Is there anyone here who, if his son asks him for a loaf of bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? So if you, even though you are bad, know how to give your children gifts that are good, how much more will the Father in heaven keep giving good things to those who keep asking Him? And I like to say real quick, just on these first few verses in that section of, keep asking, it'll be given to you, keep knocking, and the door will open. Looking at it in the light of the pearls being the gifts we've been given, if we keep asking in the wrong places, that will be answered. If we keep knocking on the wrong doors, then those doors will also be opened. And I just found it interesting that those verses came right after what could be taken as a warning to use your gifts for the right places. I'm sure we sadly probably all know someone that has gone knocking on the wrong doors, and yes, those doors have opened. So just another thing to be careful of.
Absolutely. Looking at this in context is so important. And then the last verse, if I may, excuse me, he says, therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, also do to them, for this is the law and the prophets. So how that relates into everything, I think is also a big aspect. But, we were talking about this passage in youth group maybe 2 weeks ago, and, sometimes the answer is no. Ask and it will be given. Sometimes that answer that's given is a no. And sometimes we have to remember and emphasize that this isn't speaking about personal gain. This isn't, hey Dad, can I have a brand new Mercedes, this and that, or hey, can I, this isn't just looking to the sugar daddy in the sky. That's definitely not what this is about, but it's about kingdom matters. It's about kingdom business.
Yeah, we were talking during the break about, those verses that you lose for a while and then you find. One of them that I've told myself to remember probably 3 or 4 times that I just cannot quite remember. There's one somewhere that says, if it is within His will, then it will be given to you. So there's the balance, that wonderful key word that is very, very important. Keep asking and it will be given to you. Yes, sometimes it is a no. And like you said, this is not personal gain. As my dad would say, do not treat God as your vending machine. Don't treat Him as a spoiled brat would treat his their rich daddy. sorry, but that's something that goes on. The prosperity gospel. Just the old name it and claim it.
Yeah. Oh man.
So
And it's not a contradiction. It's not like, oh well, you saying that makes this verse invalid. He was lying. It's false then. Well, no. I mean, look at the example he gives. Look at the parable he gives. Just like you, an earthly father, if your son asks you for bread, you're not going to give him a rock. If he asks you for a fish, you're not going to give him a serpent. And so you know how to give good gifts. How much more do I know how to give good gifts? But if a son asks his father, "Hey, Dad, can I eat nothing but cake for the next week? And can I, obviously, what's the answer from the good father?
no.
No." And so he's using this parable and this example of earthly parenthood for a reason, because likewise he's an even better father. So no, we can't have Tootsie Rolls for breakfast, lunch, and dinner this week. He of course he's going to give us gifts that are good for us because he loves us. That's a father who cares.
Yes, and it
So
does
it's
say.
not a contradiction.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. That's one of the big ones for me is, before I even open the scriptures, I need to understand that if I ever see any contradiction anywhere in it, then it is my own lack of understanding. It is not within here. There are some things
Yeah.
that if you believe there is a possibility for any contradiction, then that is a slippery slope. There are certain things that are just slopes, and you allow one in, and they keep going down. It's a little rabbit trail, but important
Yeah.
stuff, I think.
Which is one important reason, again, why, this is not a me and God thing. It's not just me in the corner somewhere with God. It's a community effort. And when we come to these tough passages where, we don't know what to do, it's okay to have someone interpret. It's okay to have a teacher. It's okay for the congregation to come together and give each other wisdom and insight, because so many of us have experiences and knowledge and things that the other person doesn't have. And so we really do build on one another. And that's why the scriptures teaches that, wisdom is found in a multitude of counselors. And, that's why it's so important to be in a congregational community setting, because when you're out on your own, a lot of times you see these contradictions and you see these things, and yet there's no one there to hold you accountable now. And so you do get off on all these wazoo trails and weird mystic offshoots, and soon you're denying the validity of Scripture, and you're just way out there on your own, which just isn't how God designed it to be.
Yeah, yeah, completely. It's completely right. And I do believe whatever we do bring to Him, we should keep asking, because there's an attribute of prayer that changes it. Actually, prayer changes us because it doesn't change Him. He doesn't need to be changed. So when you keep asking for something in prayer, you're drawing closer to Him. You're entering into His presence in that prayer. And as you spend time in His presence, your heart's going to conform to His. And as you bring those things before Him, and you're in His presence, and your heart's being conformed to His, then that's when you start to understand what you truly need and what you truly do not need. And that is one thing that's going to help any of us, understand what to ask for. That's probably part of it is what do we keep asking for?
Amen. And that's a huge encouragement for this time. Once again, I would encourage everyone to listen to what Daniel just said, and for this time of counting up in anticipation, to take time each day and have that quiet, that prayer, that Father, conform my mind and my way of thinking to yours, conform my attitude and my behaviors more towards you. I know I'm going to be working and attempting on that at this time, and I would encourage everyone else to as well, because we need it. Especially in this time where so many things want to take us away from the Father. It's good to just buckle down and give Him the time that He deserves.
Yes, I mean He created time, so there's that.
Hey, good point. Yeah.
I've just been thinking about that lately. We've made things so hard on ourselves. It's ridiculous. It was not meant to be this way. He asks for our time. That's such a simple thing. Because if He created time and He gives us everything, all the things that we have, then obviously, if we say we don't have time, that is 100% our fault.
Yeah, it's so true. And I had this conviction the other day with one of my brokers at my work over there at Keller Williams, and we were in a business meeting, and he's an awesome guy, loves the scriptures, loves God. Keller Williams is a very pro-God in the workplace company. And he says there at the meeting, because he was talking about this, about prioritizing your time, he says, I notice all of you here today have pants on. and you probably all brush your teeth, today. And I noticed that all of you don't have bedhead right now. He's like, to say we don't have time for something is just a lie. Time's an illusion. Everyone has the same amount of time in their day. It's what you allow to put up with and what you don't allow to put up with. It's your standards,
That's right.
Amazingly, if you're running out of time, you still have enough time to put pants on, right? To make sure you don't smell like body odor.
Yeah, at least we would hope so.
Yeah, at least we hope so, yeah. If you're listening to this and you don't have those priorities, I'm very sorry if we've offended you, but you might want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's whatever we make priorities for. We certainly have time to schedule, our Facebook looking or this or that. So it really comes down to not time, but priorities.
Yes.
And so to make God a number one priority in our day is crucial. To make it so, I cannot continue my day until I have had my time with God, to get to that point where it's unacceptable. It's a standard that we've set for ourselves, just like putting pants on, just like, these other things. Time with God has to be a standard.
Yes, it absolutely has to be. And, I don't think that when we don't give him the time, most of the time, I don't think he gets angry, but I think it just, it saddens him. I really believe that. If we were all created with a purpose and, all have a very specific design, and if he put as much, since he put as much care into each and every one of us as he did, then, naturally he wants our time, and, he wants it to be wholehearted. He would rather have 2 minutes of wholehearted prayer than no time at all. And I'm not saying you should stop at 2 minutes. I'm absolutely not saying that. But,
but it's better than nothing.
Yes. Make it as much as you can. Just think about it. Think about the people that you want to spend time with, and, that you want to have good quality time with. And maybe there have been a few times that they have, rejected you and said, I don't have time right now. And you knew for a fact that they did. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think he gets angry either, but, it's not him missing out, it's us missing out. I don't know about you, Daniel, but whenever I'm in a good prayer habit and I'm making sure God's my priority and I'm having these intimate times of prayer, and it makes everything better. It makes the whole day better. It makes my attitude better. I get more stuff done. I'm more fulfilled. Like, everything is better. And then when I'm out of sync and I'm not scheduling God and I'm not, having him as that priority in those times, things stink. I'm out of sync. I'm out of whack. I can't seem to get my mind focused. I don't know if it's the same with you.
Oh, completely. I just, I'm sluggish. I just, I have a hard time getting energy when, my prayer life is lacking. And so, pray. It's a good thing to do.
All right, we'll see you next week. Make sure you pray.